I loved mountains. Like, as crappy as it was, and going up there and seeing the snow hit and everything like that, it's kind of like my element, which was kind of funny because I'd just come from Quebec where it's just pounding snow. I was just thinking, I'm like, some of these guys, oh shit, I feel bad for them from like Texas and crap like that, or like Florida, gonna be handling this.
Everyone else had snivel gear, and I thought to myself, the hell do I need snivel gear for? I'm going on a bus. Then we stopped in that parking lot, and it literally started snowing. I was like, oh my God, dude, I'm literally gonna die here.
The worst night of my life was definitely one night we were in the mountains. It just started raining. Everything got cold.
I was soaked, like entirely. I was soaked from top to bottom. The wind was picking up.
I tried to sleep just on the ground with a sleep pad, threw a tarp over me.
He grabs his tarp, he throws it over me, and then he like lifts it up, and then it just falls in there. And then he's like, bro, it's cold. And I'm like, yo, tell me about it. And we're just literally just standing there, just like right here, pulling security.
Tarp got wet. I was cold. I just woke up. I was just shivering.
We just started struggling up, man. We were just trying to stay warm.
Almost getting like waterboarded by this tarp.
Take the tarp off, and literally hear the splash of water just.
That put me down for a little bit because I was like, yeah, this sucks.
The phase that poses the greatest challenge for any leader is the mountain phase. The steepness of the terrain, the cold weather conditions, the load you're carrying in your rucksack gets a little bit heavier, limited sleep, limited food. It is about making young leaders capable to do the things that our Army is going to ask them to do in combat.
If they make it to the Mountain Phase Ranger School is being here for 22 days. Day 0 is kind of reception, integration, equipment draw, etc. And then they'll do 2 days of lowers mountaineering. They'll conduct a knots test where they'll be able to have to identify and tie 5 of 7 knots correctly. They'll do a series of basic and advanced rappels, mountaineering tasks to include learning how to traverse through rugged terrain, through rope systems.
The beginning portion of mountains was fun, like lowers, that's what they call it, like learning the mountaineering techniques. The first day you get to rappel off the tower, and it's always fun to rappel.
I had a great time at lowers as well. I learned a lot. I got a new basis of understanding for rappelling. Going off those rappels and coming down the towers and stuff like that was really new for me, and it was also really exciting.
Today is really the introduction to mountaineering techniques for the Ranger students, and it really essentially is created to show them the basics on how to tie knots, how to use the equipment that they currently have, and how they can apply it in low and high angle terrain.
It gets so in depth to where you're rappelling with a buddy, you are ascending as well as descending, which is crazy to think about. Like, you strap yourself into a system and you're using your body weight with specific knots that you have to tie, and you have to do it with and without a casualty. Those are the techniques that you learn to get yourself up a cliff.
The students are getting their basic introduction to military mountaineering. So over the course of today, the students have learned about basic rappels, how to belay. Right now, the students over there, they're learning about the construction of anchors. And also the students learned about the simple fixed rope and the construction of that simple fixed rope.
For this first 4 days of mountains, it's a little bit more relaxed for the instructor side of things. So we're more focused on like safety. So hopefully they're having a little bit of fun, but mindsets vary from person to person. But for the most part, they're just looking, like I said, looking forward to the next meal, trying to just get by these next few days, just kind of surviving.
Lowers gave us a whole lot of knowledge. For example, the sus traverse suspension traverse, which I thought was really, really interesting. But yeah, definitely one of the coolest experiences that I've ever had.
What we aim to achieve here in the Mountain Phaser Ranger School is to build technically and tactically competent Ranger students that's proficient in mountaineering skills that prepares them for the final phase of Ranger School in Florida.
We started off the day with our knots test, and then today we build on those types of things, such as the knots, simple raising, complex fixed ropes, bridging. So we went over to the Etowah over there when they got some exercise on actually incorporating some of the knots and transporting both personnel and equipment across that linear danger area of the river there.
And then they'll do, we call upper mountaineering at Mount Yonah, where they'll conduct a 1.8-mile foot march. And this really, test the mental aptitude of the Ranger student to see if they possess the physical and mental stamina necessary to pass the Mountain Phaser Ranger School. And then up there, they'll do balance and lead climb. And again, that goes back to building the confidence of the Ranger student.
When you're in Ranger School, you're very secluded and you're very focused in what you're doing. And so when we were up on Mount Yonah, seeing the civilians hiking with their dogs and they're walking around with their family members and conversing, I remember seeing that and thinking, oh my gosh, like there's still something, happening outside of the phase here.
You're getting to climb mountains and actually do lead climbing, things I've never done before. It was thrilling to rappel 200 feet. That was awesome.
Once I count the item, you'll take a knee. If you don't have the item, take it behind your rucksack. Understand? All right. Non-sleep ropes, non-lockers, heat tab.
Today, in day one of our combat techniques period of instruction, so they're going to be learning patrol base along with some mountain terrain association. And we have some supplemental classes that they'll do react to contact, platoon attack. So right now they're getting their block of instruction inside the bays where they can get the step-by-step process so they can develop their own SOPs on how they want to actually occupy and establish a patrol base. And then from here we'll go out and do our practical exercises.
You'll go into 4 days of techniques training where they'll be given platform instruction on patrol base, raid, ambush, troop leading procedures, orders production, again to include warning order, fragmentary order, and operations order. And they'll get that for 4 days. So there they'll be able to build their SOPs. They'll get subclasses on LDA crossings, fires, planning, support by fire, crew drills, and really to be able to build some SOPs prior to going into the 2 different 5 days field training exercise.
Today, the Ranger students are conducting raid operations. During ambush, they fired and then maneuvered. So today we're kind of expanding on that knowledge. Now they're firing and maneuvering, just making the situations a little more complex for them.
The days are packed. Classroom instruction in the morning, followed by demonstrations and practical exercises. The instructors have a very short window to cover a lot of ground. And if the students are not careful, they may miss a key detail that could be the difference between their success or failure in the remote Appalachian Mountains. The importance of acclimating to the terrain cannot be overstated. The physical strain of traversing the steep slopes and carrying the additional weight of their new equipment cannot be taught. It must be experienced.
You can't really study for that. Nobody can tell you more than, hey, you're gonna be walking up a slope that's about 60 degrees for 3 clicks. It's gonna suck. So you put your ruck on and you go train for that.
Getting these crucial repetitions in will help the students flesh out their platoon SOPs and plan mitigation strategies for exhaustion unlike anything they've experienced before. They are beginning to understand it's them versus the terrain.
The ambush class is super important, especially in the mountain phase of Ranger School, because the operations they're going to conduct are going to be primarily ambushes, and it's a lot bigger of an operation with some more moving pieces.
Endpoint confirmed. Headed back now.
Fire, hey, gun 1. Hey, rapid 6, gun 1. Rapid 6. Fire confirmed.
There will be more emphasis on the support by fire when it comes to fratricide. So here we're teaching them a lot about how to bound, how to move to their last cover and concealed position.
It's that violent mindset, it's that tenacious mindset, it's that non-compromising, mission success-oriented mindset.
After every exercise, the students are evaluating their performance, identifying weaknesses, and making adjustments. As the saying goes, master the small things, and the big things will fall into place. From something as simple as mounting and dismounting troop transport vehicles.
So, with absolutely no plan, with no SOP that's been rehearsed, just from the hip, we were able to provide local security for ourselves, conduct a link up, and load all 4 of these trucks in roughly 8 minutes. That means once we have a plan and SOP in place, this should go even better and even faster, yes? Exactly. It's a totally doable feat.
To complex tasks like hoisting a casualty to a medevac Blackhawk in flight, everything must be orchestrated with precision. With each new measure of complexity, the stakes grow ever higher, and the repercussions of a misstep may not just simply result in failure. It could mean catastrophic injuries for a teammate. The development of a standard operating procedure for each task is crucial if a platoon is to function in unison. And the students will work late into the night doing just that.
There's a lot of chiefs, not enough Indians right now. That's not a bad problem to have. It really isn't a bad problem to have. We just need to learn to be good leaders, and part of being a good leader is learning when to take a step back.
Today, the students are learning the troop leading procedures. Essentially, this is the process that's going to help them plan and prepare to execute all sorts of missions out here during their FTX.
What's gonna happen is we're gonna get a Frago class. We're probably gonna do a Frago PE, which will be quick, fast, and in a hurry.
It's a little bit more hands-off from the instructors, do a lot more teaching and coaching. They have to make informed decisions. So we don't tell them it has to be done one specific way. We give them an example, give them their parameters, and they have to start developing their own courses of action from there. Give them enough rope, see what they do with it.
The RIs were much more laid back. They were looking heavily on the leaders to make the right calls, the right decisions, and that allowed everybody else to kind of relax to a certain degree, but it's still a certain amount of stress floating around.
I'm an National Guard private, trained in basic training, so this is it's a lot.
Here, everything's just go, 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 go. You're always on a timeline.
A lot of people here have experience in all this, and I don't at all, so it's just a learning curve.
It's really just relying on everyone else around you. Like, you don't want to let your team down or your squad down or your platoon down.
It's really a team effort out here, and any way you can help the guys that are sucking, yeah, you try and do that. The thing that gets me through is the guys on my left and right, whether it's the guys that, you know, are my peers and we're going through it together, or the people that I'm leading. And, you know, that just gives you that motivation, the drive to succeed. And I think that's why a lot of people come here, is to make themselves better, you know, more capable leaders to go back out to the force and do good things.
Here in the course, nothing is individual based. People need to understand that they're part of a team, and if not everyone's carrying their weight and then some, it'll lead to overall mission failure, and they won't be able to just be successful in platoon level operations or honestly any level operations.
Later today, the students will receive their company order from the ranger instructors, and then they'll have time today and sometime in the morning to prepare for their operations order. This is one of the only days they get for bay planning. The rest of their planning and preparation for their missions will be done out in the field during the FTX. So it's significant because they get these nice terrain models, they get the nice whiteboards out here, and they have a ton of time to plan and prepare and set them on the right foot starting out on the FTX so they can continue that momentum for a good FTX.
Today was the first day of the 10-day FTX split up in 5-day increments. We de-trucked about a click down over here.
You came right out of where we are now, and then you went straight up that mountain right away.
Our first movement into the mountains, I can't remember which one we did. They're all titled something goofy. It was one of the shitty ones though, one of the really sucky ones.
I had a Derby recycle, so I had a lot of time to, you know, eat, get fat, and, you know, just get bigger, you know. So like I always carried more weight than most people did, you know. Like I was mostly fourth squad during mountains, so we always had weapons. So I'd carry the barrel bag with like extra rounds, sometimes 400 plus. Like, you know, I just stack myself up because, you know, I look around and like they've been through 62 and through, kind of, they're on that wagon. So I mean, like I can help y'all out. Let me just carry some more. Like, I got y'all.
I saw it break some people. Like, it was really tough for me. And my buddy Sam had the tripod and the barrel connected to him, and I'm just like, holy crap, bud. Like, every time I'm trying to like give him a boost or something along those lines, and he's too proud to let me touch him. But like, it was pretty cool just to like test yourself that way in such a like tough environment.
Like, you feel like you're going up, and then you see a clearing, and the guy in front of you taps their foot. It's like, all right, we're at checkpoint 4. We're almost to the security hall. And then you get to like a fake summit. Like, you hit it, and you look around, and it's just a flat ground for like 50 meters, and then you go right back up. Like, how am I still going up? Like, my ears have popped twice because of elevation.
In addition to the physical rigors of climbing up mountains, you know, and moving 15 kilometers every day on, you know, 2 to 3 hours of sleep. So the physical rigors of Ranger School really start to set in here, in addition to the cerebral component of platoon operations.
The foot movement up to here for the ORP. Another thing that we do here that is important for the students is we allow them to make their own decisions. So we don't want to see just the book answer step by step by step. We want to see what makes sense with the constraints that they're given. So terrain is not always going to be perfect. We're not always going to have the full amount of time that it should take half an hour to do this and 10 minutes to do this. And we want to see how they react to those situations. We allow them to make their own decisions and use the 5 principles of trolling, mainly common sense, to actually accomplish the mission.
Going into mountains, you have a little bit more freedom. You can do a little bit more critical thinking, which was definitely, you know, testing.
That's where you really had to rely on your intuition and rely on your squad leaders and your teammates to make good decisions so that you could have a successful mission.
You have to, you know, brief your frag org, and then you get to the ORP, your objective rally point. And then you have to move from the ORP, set up an ambush.
My first look at mountains was an assault 2 squad leader for an ambush. The PL was really squared away. So he literally told me, hey, this is what I need from you. This is what I need done. Execute. So I was like, okay, too easy. I go do all that, have it ready by a certain time. We all pick up, move out. We had a pretty good reconnaissance, kind of figured out everything we needed to. You know, it's mountain face, so it was literally just down the hill.
In mountains, you had the time to deliberately set in an ORP and then do a good leader's recon, have multiple hours to do so. Now you might have an hour to conduct the same kind of mission, same complexity, but have to do it in half the allotted time.
More about emplacement, where you put your people at to better have that bigger picture.
We're going to go metal to metal. It's just you've now dictated the sector on the tripod.
It was pretty easy to communicate, hey, you know, this is what we should do. This is how we should do it. So when it came time to actually do the ambush, it was solid. It's pretty perfect.
We completed the ambush. It was like a mission to get our MREs back because we forgot to put them on the Lima 1 report. We didn't request them the night before, so we had to like seize the vehicles and get our MREs back from the vehicles.
We had pushed over across that little ravine, and we found a good spot for the support by fire. So it was actually facing down the long axis of the road. So the enemy's approach, we could shoot them head on. All right. Objective being that we disable those vehicles as they're slowing down to approach that turn, not letting them into the turn. So once we hit that claymore on those vehicles and we disable them, they're potentially still going to roll, right? And now they're in our kill zone. You guys can all then mass your fires on them as well as support by fire, hit targets opportunity and such, and then they are there and you're already set. You have your paths that each individual soldier is going to take down onto the objective. There was minor confusion and pretty good control, all right? So keep that up, do it better, but keep it up, okay?
After a positive after-action review, spirits are high, but the day is far from over. They are less than halfway through their patrol, and night is on their heels. Under the cover of darkness, this will be an arduous movement.
I remember looking around and just seeing everybody's face. I was thankful enough to be around, or grateful enough to be around people that, you know, we make it halfway up and we're exhausted, and like, I look at my buddy Price and we just like smile at each other and be like, look at that, as the sun was setting. I just remember thinking to myself how beautiful it is that I'm here and giving this opportunity to see something. I felt like I was part of a plan that's bigger than myself. Like, it was God's work for me to be there, to see that and to feel that. So yeah, it was really a great opportunity. It was the worst but most beautiful hike I'd ever been on, and the longest. by a lot.
I remember the RI coming up to me specifically. It's pitch black before the assault, and he kind of whispers in my ear, he's like, "Are you the Assault 2 squad leader?" "Yeah, roger that, Sergeant. That's me." It's like, all right, what I'm looking for specifically is control of your element and violence of action. 2 things, all I want to see. Like, all right, too easy, roger that. And the first thing that came into my head was the scene from Band of Brothers where they're fighting out of that trench and they're fighting uphill because they got shelled. And it was Dick Winters running up and down that line, just screaming at his guys. Like, "Come on, get your guns up, keep pushing, fire, fire." Like, and it was awesome, it was motivating. Like, if I would have been on that gun line with him in my ear, that's what I was thinking of in the back of my mind. When they initiated, that's what I did. Like, I got up out of the prone and I just started running the line and just screaming at people at the top of my lungs so that they could hear me through all the gunfire. One of my saws went down, so I like turned around and I gunned it towards him. I was like, "Get that saw up, come on." Like, I told somebody to put all the surrounding M4s on burst and then fully auto. Like, I shot down there a couple times, just a massacre of fires. When it came time for bounding, I made sure that everybody was on line. I gave my team leaders like a little bit of leeway with it, but like I commanded it, keep that control. Everybody was on line. It was perfect successive bounding.
Right side bound, push more right so we can get left in here.
I thought it was great. When we hit the LOA, like that's where things got fuzzy with the QRF element, but I thought I handled that very well. And this guy,
No one cleared him. No one saw him.
just like, "Listen, you lost all control of your element. Your violence of action after the first like 10 seconds was miserable." And he started just, it hurt. It hurt what he had to say. Because I thought it was the complete opposite. That one got me a poopy face a little bit.
I am the king droner, all right? Basically, droning is when you are halfway in between limbo of being asleep and being awake. So you're still walking, but you're definitely not there, like able to make a cognitive decision just because you're that tired. On one of our long movements, so on the right-hand side, there was a sheer cliff that I almost walked off like 2 or 3 times. And then on the left side, there was it was a big incline. And I remember, I guess at some point I had taken a left and I began to walk up this slope. And I made it far before I finally woke up in a panic and I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm alone." I thought I had walked off from everyone. I was like, "I'm gonna get SOR'd." I'm panicking. I'm like, "Where is everybody?" And I turn around and I look at the road and there's like 10 or 12 dudes that are just staring at me. I can see their NVGs and they're just following me, like thinking to themselves probably like, "What the hell is this dude doing?" And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, "Yeah, there's 12 people down there," and they just watched me walk up a hill off the road, and not a single one was gonna be like, "Hey, asshole, you're going the wrong way. You wanna come back down to the road?"
Sometimes I would close my eyes, open them back up, and I'd be in another place than I thought I was. So that happened to me a few times on night marches. I'd be walking, and I'd blink, and then I'd be in like another formation with the wrong people, and I'd be like, where so I'd have to hustle back up or like slow down even sometimes. I somehow got ahead of my formation sometimes. So that was a special thing for me.
So a patrol base it's a small area, and you set up this little like 360-degree security like triangle, and that's where you cleaned your weapon, that's where you did personal hygiene, you ate your food, whatever you need to like refit, get your body well, get your equipment well, and then you racked out for the night. It was always at night. So when we did these patrol bases at night, like we weren't in the greatest spots. You don't want the enemy to kind of naturally walk up on you. You don't want it to be like in a natural line of drift coming off like the peak of a mountain. Like you want to be in a terrible place where nobody's gonna find you. We were down in a huge gully, like a huge slope, like all the way down, like near water, like in, not really swamps, but it was terrible. It was a terrible area to be. In order to like relax in a way, like recover, and then you can pick back up and move on to your next mission.
As far as establishing the patrol base, it feels a lot like herding cats. Getting everybody on the same page to just make a triangle in the dark is always an extraordinarily difficult task.
Ranger has a really hard time doing geometry in the woods at night. So just physically making a triangle, staying tactical, remaining quiet, using hand and arm signals, but essentially leader delegation from the platoon level down to the squad level, and then those squad leaders learning how to utilize their team leaders in order to control the movement of their troops without breaking that noise and light discipline, still remaining tactical, providing security, and not violating the principles of patrolling. So the stress that they get on this is mainly self-induced stress, just because they don't have those reps on how to actually control their element. But by the time they leave out of here, going down to Florida and all the patrol-based reps they get throughout the FTX, they should have a pretty good baseline SOP to at least be able to occupy and establish a little bit quicker.
We got everything set up for the patrol base, and then finally I was like, all right, bed down. We were looking at our clocks. You're getting like 1 hour a night some nights. And we're all looking at the sky. It's just pouring rain. We're like, all right, like, how are we going to manage this? So next thing you know, me and my buddy are like putting our sleeping mats down, getting our poncho or like a tarp over us, and putting on garbage bags over our bodies just to like try to stay warm and like, get as close to each other as possible, and just tried to battle through the night, even though we actually surprisingly got some good sleep that night. I don't know how, but it was one of the better nights. I'll never forget that.
We're on the objective, you know, we're assaulting through the objective, we're bounding, we're moving through the objective, and I got my battle buddy to the right, and then I would bound and he would bound, and I would bound and he would bound, and then I bounded and I looked over and he didn't bound, so I bounded again. I looked back and I'm wondering where he's at, and then we got to the LOA and I'm like, oh man, we lost one. And maybe the RIs, you know, notionally wounded him. So we do the LOA, and then we get together on the road to go find our equipment, do accountability, and they're like, where's this ranger at? So I start yelling his name, and I think to myself, well, now I gotta save my battle buddy. I said, he went to go to the bathroom, and I run down to the side, and I start yelling his name, and he wakes up. As we were bounding, he landed, and he fell right to sleep. And as he fell asleep, I continued bounding, continued the mission, right? And then once the mission was over, I had to go help my battle buddy out, right? And like I said, nobody makes it through Ranger School alone.
That rainstorm that we got hit with was pretty gnarly. It was bad. We felt good just getting into our sleeping bags. It was real quick because it started pouring on us, so we got into our sleeping bags. We covered up our rucks with our ponchos, and we racked out. But waking up and just a pond that just sucks. Every morning, which is waking up in a puddle of water, and everything is just soaking wet. So we just got used to it, just kind of suck it up and be wet. But the first one, kind of morale plummeted. They received a new chain of command this morning, and they were given their frago, in which they began their planning process. PL was given 30 minutes to basically read through that frago, gather the information he needed, and then give a warning to his squad leaders and platoon sergeant. The squad leaders and the platoon leader are together in the center, what we call the Tower of Power, and they're beginning their planning process for their mission for today. Generally, the PL is giving out tasking standards, time hacks to the subordinate leaders, and they're kind of utilizing their subordinates to keep priorities of work happening as they're simultaneously planning for this operation. The platoon sergeant's also preparing to receive his resupply this morning, which would be brought in by the incoming RI walk team. And then they'll step off and begin their patrol.
Like the one in the wood line behind us.
We as RIs, we don't have to, smoke the Ranger students because the terrain will do it for us. You figure they're going with anywhere from 80 to 120 pound rucks. Add to that the calorie deficit, and again, the terrain adding to how many calories you're using, the lack of sleep, the weather itself beating on you. It really allows the Ranger students to know how much they can handle and if this was the right choice for them.
Finding motivation in times like that is just the fact that you're in Ranger school. You're already in like robot mode, not because you're drowning, not because you're tired. I mean, you were, but sometimes you just had to, I don't know, just look at the guy in front of you and just put one step in front of the other. That's all it really was.
My team is a member of Merrill's Marauders platoon here at 5th Ranger Training Battalion, and we facilitate the effective training of Ranger students as they come through the mountain phase of Ranger School. And what that means is we play the part of a near-peer threat. We train in the same tactics that the Ranger students do, and this allows the Ranger students to see their same tactics applied by the enemy on the battlefield. Therefore, they can get a more realistic view of how the enemy operates out there in the real world. The Ranger instructors, they can't be everywhere at once. As a member of the OPFOR, we will sometimes see things, whether it be good or bad, that the student leadership or the student patrol has done or failed to do, and we can relay that to the Ranger instructors throughout various coordinations that we make with them during the day.
Still, one of the worst days of my entire life happened in Ranger School. I was carrying a 240 to the top of the Tennessee Valley Divide. It was about 35 degrees and it was raining. Terrible weather, miserable. Got up to the top, slipped in some mud, banged my face on a 240 and knocked out my front teeth. But I tell the students that when they come in, you're gonna have a bad day. That was my bad day, but you gotta push through it. You gotta rely on your teammates, and that's what we're really teaching, right? This is a leadership school. We grade on tactics and we teach patrols and platoon level operations, like I've been saying, but we really teach leadership and really learning. Part of that is learning about yourself and pushing through adversity and pushing the limitations of human performance.
After we switched out leadership, basically we're told you need to set up an ambush and go. And so security squad, they're up front, set up a quick ORP and then run and in place our security.
I was rushing around trying to actually see the objective in daylight so I can get a general understanding of where I was going to set this ambush. But it seemed like everybody was just dragging ass. Like it was, I had the leader's legs, and so did, luckily I had really good squad leaders that also had the leader's legs that were trying to push people along in that same direction. But I remember getting everything set up, all my like machine guns in place, the assault line in place, and I'm going around doing my final spot checks of like what's going on, and I come around and there's just little things like people are dead asleep on the assault line, like everybody's toast. It's special. And I remember coming back to the assault line at one point, and I was about like a few like bounds behind where the actual assault line was, and I found a guy just dead asleep in like a pit, and it was one of the guys from my squad, and he was just completely lost, like didn't know where he was, and I grabbed him by the scruff and like got him back up to the assault line. I'm like, you almost shot everybody on this ambush. So I luckily got everybody up, started the ambush, and it went as well as it could.
we bounded through the objective. We hit our limit of advance.
Oriented in the direction of travel.
And another vehicle, like an enemy QRF, I guess, comes flying down the road. And it was on my side. Like, all right, real quick, think about what you're gonna do. Get my guys online. I put like a 320 and an AT4 up there real quick. Shot the vehicle down, did a vehicle clearance. And that was it. That was my second look as the assault squad leader. When I found out that I was a no-go for patrols, it's like anything else, like your heart just sinks, your heart breaks. And I'm not an emotional guy whatsoever. You can ask anybody. And it was pretty quick that I became, emotionally compromised. Like just from that one phone call, the second I heard my wife's voice, it was over. That phone call lasted about 90 seconds. Then I had to say, hey, I'm a no-go. I'm gonna have to do mountains again. It's gonna be 6 weeks. So my new graduation date is now in June, not April. I'll call you when I can. And watching everybody else like jump on that phone call and give high fives and hugs. And they were like so excited that they were, tearing up. And you could only imagine what their family member on the other end of the phone was saying. But like that one hurt big time.